Welcome to the Pipeline Podcast. Today is August 30th, and we got a fun, short update for you tonight. So we're going to be covering DC, just like crime in DC, how Trump has been dealing with that, and what the effects have been from the National Guard and Trump taking control of the DC police. So let's take a look at our first source. If you're not familiar with what we're doing here on this channel, we cover mostly conspiracies, but also current events. So every Wednesday, we'll do a long form podcast covering some kind of conspiracy or some kind of major current event. And we'll go a little more in depth. And then throughout the rest of the week, we'll do shorter episodes on current events like this. If you've watched any other previous episodes on the channel, you know that we have been covering the crime crackdown in DC. We talked about Trump's executive order, where he takes control of the police in DC. And then most recently on the channel, we covered prosecuting burning of the American flag. So I do want to start off with a little bit of an update. So let me see if I can find a picture just in case anyone is unaware about this stuff. So the last DC update, where we left off was here. So I don't know if you can kind of see this thumbnail here. You see this guy, he burned a flag in DC, and this happened after Trump's executive order, where he said he's going to prosecute anyone that burns a flag. Trump wants anyone who burns an American flag to get 1 year in prison, but that's not very realistic. There has been Supreme Court precedent set. Where we left off is the guy had burned a flag but had not yet been charged. So I wanted to give a little update here on the guy's charges. So the title here, Feds charge man who burned U.S. flag outside White House in protest of Trump's executive order. So it looks like he got 2 misdemeanors, 1 count for lighting a fire not in a designated area, and another was for lighting a fire in a manner that threatened, caused damage to, and resulted in the burning of property. Again, if you've been following the channel, this is kind of exactly what we said was going to happen. Trump wants anyone who burns a flag to go to jail for a year, but realistically, what kind of charges can be given to people that burn a flag? And we're seeing it here. This is like the first example. So some of the charges that you might get if you burn a flag are lighting a fire in a non-designated area, which is a misdemeanor, or lighting a fire in a manner that threatened or caused damage to property, which again is also a misdemeanor. And then it says both charges are punishable by a fine and no more than 6 months in custody. So I'm not a lawyer, but it looks like if he got the full extent of both of those charges, it would be 1 year in custody. And that's kind of what Trump wants. And that's most likely why he was hit with 2 of these 6 months charges. So I just wanted to give a little update there. And let's get on to the rest of our video. We're going to talk about how, whether you like it or not, however you lean politically, Trump's crackdown on crime in DC has in fact worked. And me saying that shouldn't upset you because it's a real thing. So before we really get into some of the sources that show that, I just want to talk about some of the other executive orders that Trump has signed to kind of deal with the crime in DC. So we've already covered where he takes control of the DC police, but there's a couple more in here we haven't gone over. So 1, additional measures to address the crime emergency in District of Columbia. We also have prosecuting burning of the American flag. That kind of ties in here. We have measures to end cashless bail in DC, which again, so cashless bail is like a system to where it's like, it's supposed to be a good thing. So it's supposed to benefit poor people that can't post bail, because a bail system does benefit rich people. So say you commit a crime and your bail's set at $10,000 and you don't have $10,000. That means you wait in jail until court. But if you can pay that $10,000, if you have the money, you get to go home, you're free until your court date. You know, a couple of years ago, maybe like a decade ago, we saw a lot of states and districts implement this cashless bail system to where everyone kind of just got out on bail. There was no money that had to be paid to get let out on bail. Now, it sounds great on paper, but in practice, what happens is I could go assault someone and I get let out the same day, and then I'm free to go steal stuff, and then I get let out the same day. And before you get sentenced, you can just commit, to an extent, as much crime as you want, especially if it's not violent. They'll just keep letting you out. So we have him doing that for DC, and then we have another executive order taking steps to end cashless bail to protect Americans. So I do believe Trump wants to get rid of it everywhere. I kind of agree. I wanted to just bring up those because we haven't really talked about it on the channel yet. And now let's get into some sources that show that Trump's crackdown on crime in DC is actually working. So the first source we have here is a video from the DC mayor admitting that yes, in fact, crime is down after Trump's peace through strength move in DC. So we're going to watch this and we might talk about it a little bit. Again, this is the DC mayor.
And we greatly appreciate the surge of officers that enhance what MPD has been able to do in this city. The most significant thing that we are highlighting today is the area of crime that was most troubling for us in 2023. Now, we have driven it down over the last years, but I'm going to get my glasses so I can make sure I can see it correctly.
All right, she's got her glasses on.
Carjackings, the difference between this period, this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents a 87% reduction.
80% reduction in carjackings?
In carjackings in Washington, D.C. We know that when carjackings go down, when the use of gun goes down, when homicide or robbery go down, neighborhoods feel safer in our...
Absolutely. And that's another thing. So it's not always about the statistics. It's about how do people feel that live in the city. Another example is New York right now. New York is the safest it's been in decades, but there is still that stigma where people kind of don't want to go, especially like young girls don't want to take the subway at night, like by themselves. There's still that feeling that things are unsafe. And for a community to really thrive, you need the community to feel safe. Even if statistically crime has gone down, it doesn't mean that people that live there think it's a safe area.
Are safer. So this surge has been important to us for that reason.
Absolutely, absolutely. So she is talking about there are some crime stats that have gone down, and she's getting reports from people that live in the community saying, yeah, we feel safer, you know, and that does mean a lot to a lot of people. There are a lot of people that feel like they're not safe, even if they're much better off in today's world than they were in like the 70s in urban America. So I wanted to cover that. And again, that is the mayor of DC saying that. Next up, we have a source. It's just some TikTok from a lady that allegedly lives in DC, and she kind of talks about how it's been the last few weeks. So let's listen to what she has to say.
So President Trump has not even had control over Washington, DC for 30 days. And I have on my For You page video after video showing DC, specifically Union Station, and how clean and safe it is. People don't understand how...
And this is one of the people I was talking about. So like Union Station is like a public transit hub. And I'm not trying to be sexist or anything, but someone like her most likely feels a little bit unsafe when she walks up to this transit hub and just sees like litter everywhere, homeless people, maybe people just like screaming in the streets, maybe some open air drug use. It kind of discourages her from doing things that she might want to do. And just the fact that it looks clean and it looks safe, it makes people feel better about the community. It makes a huge difference.
How big of a deal it is specifically for Union Station, because there is a bridge, whether it's the bypass, it's either 95, 395, or 495, where the homeless, as well as people who are abusing drugs, as well as the drug dealers, they just squat. It's clean. It's all gone. This was also an underpass bridge where people would throw their wastes. So you would drive on the main road, and to the left and right of you is nothing but trash. It's all clean. People don't understand how big of a deal this is, because the Capitol is right there within like a 6 or 7 minute walk. And then also local residents, they did not like walking there whether in the daytime or the evenings.
Right. It's like if it's cluttered and full of people squatting, being homeless, I mean, even if there's not crimes going on, people aren't going to walk through that overpass. They're going to avoid it. It's just like cleaning it up makes it a little bit easier for the city to function.
Some people would take taxis just to avoid any type.
Yeah, right there. Like take taxis just to avoid it. And it's like that's just an extra nuisance that they shouldn't have to deal with.
Of encounters. And people have been talking about cleaning this up for a decade. And you mean to tell me President Trump hasn't even had control for 30 days and he cleaned it all up? So
that's called peace through strength right there. Let's check out our next source. This is just a quote from, I mean, this is a Republican here, a Texas Republican. He spends a lot of time in DC, he's a congressman, and he does have a couple of examples of like crime in DC. I was specifically looking for more sources that are like Democrats, like the mayor here talking about how crime is down. That way it's just easier to convince everybody who watches this video that like, no, this isn't fake news. People actually are able to like celebrate the community and feel much safer in DC. Either way, so this is Congressman Wesley Hunt from Texas, and he makes a couple quotes here. So he says, downstairs in my apartment complex, there was a woman who was robbed. She had her computer stolen, her phone stolen, an iPad, and they live blocks away from the Capitol. He says he was 3 minutes away when it happened. And then he said, across the street from our complex, there was someone else that got robbed at gunpoint. And then he kind of goes on to say, like, I don't understand what these critics are talking about. Trump critics are kind of saying, like, oh, cracking down on crime in DC is useless because crime is down. Just because crime is down doesn't mean that crime is safe. So say that you live in a city that has the most murders out of any city in the world. You're ranked number 1 in murders one year, and the next year you're ranked number 2. Technically crime is down, but that doesn't mean the city is safe. And I kind of wanted to just pull up this source so I could talk about that for a second. Next up, we do have a picture. This is the National Guard in DC cleaning up the community. People posted this picture to kind of make fun of the National Guard and say, hey, like, look at these guys, they're wasting their time raking leaves. You just kind of step back from politics and kind of think about this for a second. Would you rather have the National Guard doing nothing or have them deployed to kind of clean up a community? And we've already seen testimony from multiple people here saying, like, just in a couple weeks, like the huge difference it has made. And they're not just arresting criminals, they're actually helping the community. I mean, you think of like a cop oath, like to serve and protect. They're kind of doing both here. They're serving the community as well as protecting it. So I thought this picture was a powerful picture. The source I got it from was like a post on Reddit saying like, hey, look at the National Guard isn't even fighting crime or protecting the peace. They're just doing community service. But again, that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. And then next we have some more statistics again. So carjackings are down by more than 80%. Overall crime is down 8%. Robberies are down 46%. Violent crime is down 22%. And property crimes and assaults with a deadly weapon are down 6%. There's like all these statistics and sources we've seen here that just talk about how Trump's peace through strength plan on DC is actually working. And we've seen him do this before. This is not the first time. We've seen him do this with the LA riots. We've seen him do this with Israel v. Iran. And right now we're seeing him do it with DC. I just wanted to cover this and try to make a video that like shows everybody. You just you dig through all the stupid ass headlines that say like Trump is overreaching with his executive power and that Trump's a dictator. And then you think about what he's doing as a dictator if you really believe that he's making a city safer. There are just a lot of examples, a lot of people admitting that yes, in fact, what he's doing is working. We have people here that are just they're just very grateful that their life is just a little bit easier to live in DC. We have other politicians saying like, hey, all the Democrats that are hating on Trump for doing this, like, need to understand that crime was a problem, kind of admit that. And then we even see here, like, the National Guard and the police aren't just arresting criminals, they're actually making the city a better place. And then we just have more statistics that, yeah, crime is way, way down. And so coming up next, we might see Trump do this to Chicago. There are some rumors about that will go down a little bit differently because DC is not a state. And there's the whole states' rights thing. So when you want to bring the National Guard into a state or try to take control of the police force in a city that's not the District of Columbia, it gets a little bit more challenging. We saw this when Trump deployed the National Guard into LA. It was a little bit more controversial, even though it was obviously the right decision. I mean, there were riots, looting, shootings going on. But either way, so if he does try to pull this move in Chicago, there will be even more backlash than DC. So we will follow that on the channel if you're interested in that. And I really do encourage you to check out our other videos. We do a lot of current events and a lot of conspiracy theories. It's a very fun time. And then when we record these episodes, we're always live on Twitch, which is in our YouTube channel description. And you can kind of follow along and post sources, give your comments, give feedback. It will be more of a discussion, which is always fun. And have a good night.